Tengo millones de historias de desafíos, podría tenerlos aquí 3 años.
Me gustaría que el futuro de las empresas, sobre todo, esté pensado en ser más humanos.
Fue una pregunta, tío.
Hola, soy Adriana Guzmán.
Soy Nicolás Besek.
Marcia Marcial.
Soy María Rech.
Mi nombre es Clara Duarte.
Mi nombre es Cristian Novoa.
Soy Lilia Carnauba.
Soy José Luis López.
Tengo millones de historias de desafíos, podría tenerlos aquí 3 años.
Me gustaría que el futuro de las empresas, sobre todo, esté pensado en ser más humanos.
Fue una pregunta, tío.
Hola, soy Adriana Guzmán.
Soy Nicolás Besek.
Marcia Maciel.
Soy María Rech.
Mi nombre es Clara Duarte.
Mi nombre es Cristian Novoa.
Soy Lilia Carnaúba.
Soy José Luis López.
Tengo millones de historias de desafíos, podría tenerlos aquí 3 años.
Me gustaría que el futuro de las empresas, sobre todo, esté pensado en ser más humanos.
Qué buena pregunta, tío.
Hola, soy Adriana Guzmán.
Soy Nicolás Besek.
Marcia Maciel.
Soy María Rech.
Mi nombre es Clara Duarte.
Mi nombre es Cristian Novoa.
Soy Lilia Carnaúba.
Soy José Luis López.
Tengo millones de historias de desafíos, podría tenerlos aquí 3 años.
Me gustaría que el futuro de las empresas, sobre todo, esté pensado en ser más humanos.
Qué buena pregunta, tío.
soy Adriana Guzmán.
Soy Nicolás Besek.
Marcia Maciel.
Soy María Rech.
Mi nombre es Clara Duarte.
Mi nombre es Cristian Novoa.
Soy Lilia Carnaúba.
Soy José Luis López.
Tengo millones de historias de desafíos, podría tenerlos aquí 3 años.
Me gustaría que el futuro de las empresas, sobre todo, esté pensado en ser más humanos.
Fue una pregunta, tío.
Hola, soy Adriana Guzmán.
Soy Nicolás Besek.
Marcia Maciel.
Soy María Rech.
Mi nombre es Clara Duarte.
Mi nombre es Cristian Novoa.
Soy Lilia Carnaúba.
Soy José Luis López.
Tengo millones de historias de desafíos, podría tenerlos aquí 3 años.
Me gustaría que el futuro de las empresas, sobre todo, esté pensado en ser más humanos.
Fue una pregunta, tío.
Hola, soy Adriana Guzmán.
Soy Nicolás Besek.
Marce Maciel.
Soy María Rech.
Mi nombre es Clara Duarte.
Mi nombre es Cristian Novoa.
Soy Lilia Carnaúba.
Soy José Luis López.
Tengo millones de historias de desafíos, podría tenerlos aquí 3 años.
Me gustaría que el futuro de las empresas, sobre todo, esté pensado en ser más humanos.
Fue una pregunta, tío.
Hola, soy Adriana Guzmán.
Soy Nicolás Besek.
Marce Maciel.
Soy María Rech.
Mi nombre es Clara Duarte.
Mi nombre es Cristian Novoa.
Soy Lilia Carnaúba.
Soy José Luis López.
Tengo millones de historias de desafíos, podría tenerlos aquí 3 años.
Me gustaría que el futuro de las empresas, sobre todo, esté pensado en ser más humanos.
Fue una pregunta, tío.
Hola, soy Adriana Guzmán.
Soy Nicolás Besek.
Marcia Maciel.
Soy María Rech.
Mi nombre es Clara Duarte.
Mi nombre es Cristian Novoa.
Soy Lilia Carnaúba.
Soy José Luis López.
Tengo millones de historias de desafíos, podría tenerlos aquí 3 años.
Me gustaría que el futuro de las empresas, sobre todo, esté pensado en ser más humanos.
Qué buena pregunta, tío.
Hola, soy Adriana Guzmán.
Soy Nicolás Besek.
Marcia Maciel.
Soy María Rech.
Mi nombre es Clara Duarte.
Mi nombre es Cristian Novoa.
Soy Lilia Carnaúba.
Soy José Luis López.
Tengo millones de historias de desafíos, podría tenerlos aquí 3 años.
Me gustaría que el futuro de las empresas, sobre todo, esté pensado en ser más humanos.
Qué buena pregunta, tío.
Hola, soy Adriana Guzmán.
Soy Nicolás Besek.
Además Maciel.
Soy María Rech.
Mi nombre es Clara Duarte.
Mi nombre es Cristian Novoa.
Soy Lilia Carnauba.
Soy José Luis López.
Tengo millones de historias de desafíos, podría tenerlos aquí 3 años.
Me gustaría que el futuro de las empresas, sobre todo, esté pensado en ser más humanos.
Fue una pregunta, tío.
Hola, soy Adriana Guzmán.
Soy Nicolás Besek.
Además Maciel.
Soy María Rech.
Mi nombre es Clara Duarte.
Mi nombre es Cristian Novoa.
Soy Lilia Carnauba.
Soy José Luis López.
Tengo millones de historias de desafíos, podría tenerlos aquí 3 años.
Me gustaría que el futuro de las empresas, sobre todo, esté pensado en ser más humanos.
Fue una pregunta, tío.
Hola, soy Adriana Guzmán.
Soy Nicolás Besek.
Marce Maciel.
Soy María Rech.
Mi nombre es Clara Duarte.
Mi nombre es Cristian Novoa.
Soy Lilia Carnaúba.
Soy José Luis López.
Tengo millones de historias de desafíos, podría tenerlos aquí 3 años.
Me gustaría que el futuro de las empresas, sobre todo, esté pensado en ser más humanos.
Fue una pregunta, tío.
Hola, soy Adriana Guzmán.
Soy Nicolás Besek.
Marce Maciel.
Soy María Rech.
Mi nombre es Clara Duarte.
Mi nombre es Cristian Novoa.
Soy Lilia Carnaúba.
Soy José Luis López.
Tengo millones de historias de desafíos, podría tenerlos aquí 3 años.
Me gustaría que el futuro de las empresas, sobre todo, esté pensado en ser más humanos.
Fue una pregunta, tío.
Bona tarda. Buenas
Good
tardes.
afternoon.
En breves
In a
instantes
few
dará comienzo
moments,
esta
we
anual
will start
Alumni Reunión
this
2021 de
annual
EAE
Alumni
Business School.
2021 of
Les
the
pedimos
EAE
encarecidamente esperen unos minutos
Business School. Just a
porque
few
estamos
more
esperando
minutes
a los
because we're
últimos que
just
se están
waiting for the
acreditando
last
y en breve
people
daremos
to get their
comienzo a la celebración.
IDs and then we'll start
Muchas
with the
gracias.
celebration. Thank you so much.
Hola, soy Adriana Guzmán.
Soy Nicolás Besek.
Marce Maciel.
Soy María Rech.
Mi nombre es Clara Duarte.
Mi nombre es Cristian Novoa.
Soy Lilia Carnaúba.
Soy José Luis López.
Tengo millones de historias de desafíos, podría tenerlos aquí 3 años.
Me gustaría que el futuro de las empresas, sobre todo, esté pensado en ser más humanas.
Qué buena pregunta, tío.
Hola, soy Adriana Guzmán.
Soy Nicolás Besek.
Marce Maciel.
Soy María Rech.
Mi nombre es Clara Duarte.
Mi nombre es Cristian Novoa.
Soy Lilia Carnaúba.
Soy José Luis López.
Tengo millones de historias de desafíos, podría tenerlos aquí 3 años.
Me gustaría que el futuro de las empresas, sobre todo, esté pensado en ser más humanas.
Qué buena pregunta, tío.
Digo, sí, ¿no? O sea, hay que apagarlo, vamos. Público. Ahora. Buenas tardes, muy buenas tardes, amigas, amigos.
Good
damas y
afternoon,
caballeros.
my friends, ladies
Es
and
un lujo, un
gentlemen.
privilegio, un honor
It's
para
a
mí
privilege,
poder
an honor for
ser el
me
maestro de
to be
ceremonias, el
the master of
presentador de
ceremony,
esta
the presenter
anual
of this
Reunión Alumni de
Alumni
EAE Business
Homecoming
School, que
of
además va a
the
tener muchas
EAE
sorpresas.
Business School
Bueno,
2021,
6 en
which
punto
will
de la
be
tarde,
full
somos
of
puntuales.
surprises.
¡Qué maravilla!
6
Veo que ha
p.m.
venido
we
gente
are
con su
right on
pareja.
time. I
Espero
see
que
people
también haya venido
with
gente a
their partners. I
divertirse.
hope
Yo estoy
people have
contento.
come here to
No tengo nada
have
en contra de las
fun.
parejas, ¿eh? Yo cuando nací mis padres estaban casados y yo
Well,
ni enfadé
if
ni
you've
nada.
come with your partner,
Esto es lo
it's
que pienso
fine
que
by
el
me.
matrimonio
When
estaba
I
bien.
was born,
Hay
my
otros que
parents
duran toda la
were
vida. Pero bueno,
together,
decía esto,
so I didn't mind at the time.
el que ríe el último
Having
pues,
said
que
that,
piensa más despacio.
the one who
Lo que
laughs
no pilléis hoy
last
mañana con la
thinks
magdalena era
slowest. That is
El
my
amor, qué
joke.
bonito es el amor.
How great love
Porque
is when we do make love.
Lo difícil del matrimonio son los
The
primeros 20
hard
años,
thing,
luego
the hard thing about
Yo llevo 9
marriage
años
is the first
enamorado de la
20
misma
years,
mujer.
and I've been 9 years in love with the same woman. But the day my wife finds out, well, she'll kill me for sure. And we're never happy anyway. If we are married, we don't want to be married. If you're married, we want to be dead. But as the dermatologists say, let's go to the zest of the matter. To the zit of the matter, and I've been told that you are former pupils, alumni, and after such a long time not seeing each other, I'm Corrales, I have Valencian mother, and my father was a friend of my father. But let's be wary. We are at the Palau de la Música, the music palace in Barcelona, and we are here to see former pupils and lots of them through the screen, because those who are behind their screen, we want to feel you close to us. So please get into the EAE app, and you'll see at the top a meeting for the alumni. You'll be able to click there, take your own picture. You'll be able to see this streaming live, and you'll be able to send it to your partner, to your friend or whoever, because we really want to feel you close to us at this very special event. Having said that, it is true that yesterday I was at the EAE school, business school in Madrid, and we'll be organizing it there in 2022. I took the fast train in the AVI, 2 hours and 45 minutes, and I was next to a gentleman, and he said to me, "Have you seen how fast the wooden pillars go past?" Well, yes, they do go past. And I was in a carriage where there was 2 seats, table, and then nobody in front of me. So I put my feet on the seats in front of me, and the employee of the train said, "Do you do this in your house?" And I asked him, "Do you puncture train tickets at home?" No. So really, and talking about taxis or cabs, they're still black and yellow. How ugly can they be? This morning, there was a black taxi driver, a Chinese passenger got on, and I was walking down the Ramblers, and then if you're walking down them, then someone will give you a coin. And at the end, there's the Marimagnum, the cinema complex, and then all of a sudden I stopped on the Ramblers street. Great, fantastic, and well, there was the star, and I had a tapa, like the tomato on bread, and they put tomato everywhere, really. I shared a flat when I was young with a Catalan, and he always said to me, "I'll improve your sandwich, I'll spread tomato on it." And he would do it, and he said, "What do you think?" "Well, you spoiled my Nutella, my chocolate sandwich." Honestly, Catalan, what a spirit you have. And one of them has told me today, I was in Terrassa, in the terrace. Well, I used to have an attic also. But this is the Palace of the Music, Palau de la Música, and we are with the EAE Business School, a different level. Where did you follow your studies, your schooling? At the EAE. That's a different story. Some people wanted to come. Have you studied in EAE? No, so, well, you can't get in. You end up walking differently. Where do you come from? EAE. What a top level, top notch. And I'm staying at a hotel. What a hotel. What a hotel. I spent some time after lunch and I drank a bottle of water of the minibar, 3.5 euros for a tiny water bottle. I just drank one. Couldn't afford anymore. And I saw those really thick towels, but I wanted to put them in my case, but my case won't shut. So, but I saw you here when you were getting your badges, because there was the whole team, production team for the EAE. And you're here because you studied at the EAE. That's the crème de la crème. The crème de la crème for the whole of Spain. I saw some of you at the entrance. Well, if that's the cream of the cream, well, the cherry on the cake, well, what can I say about it? And we even know that today, for those people behind their screen, that I can say that, of course, you have to keep your mask on. I'm afraid I need to warn you. We need to stick to the COVID regulations, although we are not sitting 2 meters away from the next person. And terraces on the cafeterias are full only up to 50%. Well, that's a huge lie. But today there was one where I met someone, he didn't know whether to bring me his fist or his elbow, but now the fashion in Madrid is to kick our feet together. Instead of shaking hands, we shake feet. But I've been always a gentleman. When they started with vaccination, if they vaccinating the special forces, if when they take their masks off, well, be prepared. They even looked nicer with their masks on. Well, in all due respect, we've got used to those masks. And my wife says, well, I'm not going to get out much. The rates are going up. We went to Mercadona supermarket last week, and she said to me, well, I can't breathe properly. So, and then we went to the supermarket, and then we went home. And then when you are there, you need to put 2 plastic gloves on, like when you put petrol in, and then you squeeze also this hydrogel on your hands or on your plastic gloves, and there's going to be more alcohol on my hands than in my own mouth. So with this hydrogel, of course, we're trying to open or get the products, and we can't. With the hydrogel and with those plastic gloves, we can't get anything. And then you need to put fresh fruit inside a plastic bag with those huge plastic gloves on your hands, and then you go to the banana section. Then you have to take the sticker with the price on, stick it on your plastic bag, and then we can't, with those plastic gloves, there's no way of doing this. And I said, what can I do? Just let me pay for my bananas, and that's it. And let's go home. Let's leave the supermarket. As soon as we got home, she took the mask off, but be careful, it wasn't my wife, because be very wary. This is happening. We are getting used to the mask. This is very dangerous. My brother-in-law last week was in the emergency ward, and they were sewing up his ears. But as I said, We're going to spend a wonderful afternoon. I know you've read through the agenda today, and there are 14 Trojan horses, or out of the Vienna horse riding school behind, backstage. But as you can understand, we need an official opening of the alumni homecoming, and that is its president, Nuria Gish. So a great round of applause to her. Thank you so much. Good afternoon. Welcome, everybody. Also, our streaming colleagues, thank you for being here. It's an honor to be here. For a couple of years, we haven't been able to do so, and we're all here. The pupils, the ex-pupils, the faculty of professors, collaborators, entities, everybody's here today. And we are here to create a session, to find inspiration, and for us to live with that feeling that we're still thinking, we're still reflecting on everything that has been told, that has been said to us, and for 3 hours. Of course, some people have come here just for the cocktail, let's not forget that. But yes, it's also good to reflect with a cocktail in your hand. So it's a very intense evening. I understand that you've invited 4 speakers. Yes, that's true. The philosophy is that we're going to have 4 sessions with top speakers, and each speech is going to last 15 minutes. The speakers are here right in the front. We're just waiting for you to get on stage, to give us this gift, your talent. And the president said it really quickly, and she stated 15 minutes. What would happen? And I'm saying, what would happen? And I'm talking about the different tenses. What would happen? What will happen if it did happen, or if it was to happen, if you came up on stage and you can't keep up your times? There is a moderator, there's a security guard in the room that has already been paid, and he or she doesn't mind using his gun, in inverted commas. So you'll see that red laser beam, and I'm saying this out of respect, because this is relating to the four first speeches. I can see people being right on time at 6 p.m. At 6 p.m. Right now. Yes, yeah, you had a hard time parking your car, because the rest of us, yes, did catch a helicopter to come here, didn't we? So we were saying, yes, we are at the Palau de la Música, the music palace. A lot of you will be from Barcelona, but we were doing our sound checks, and we are using a mic just because we want to, because the acoustics are fantastic. And you are the guests, ex-alumni, former alumni, and I want to prove you that besides what they have studied, they can become a member of the orchestra. And I'm saying this because the best orchestras play here. Shall we take a test? We're going to start with this row. Just lift your arm, and I'm saying this so that the rest behind you can see you. So this will be the middle, the line right through the middle. So lift your arm again, and from here to the left, and from here to the right, from here to the left. So we're going to clap, okay? If I understood that correctly. 1, 2, 3, clap. We're going to try and do it simultaneously at the same time. So from here to the left, clap. And you did follow your schooling in EAE. We're going to try again. We'll forget the first test. 1, 2, 3. Very good. The other half. Be careful. 1, 2, 3, clap. Okay? Wait. 1, 2, 3, clap. Okay? With sign language. Someone clapped out of time.
Hay gente que viene de otras escuelas.
Well, some people are coming maybe from other schools. Just say 1, 2, 3. I'm doing what I can. We did invite them because they are the crème de la crème.
Muy bien.
Very good. That was very good.
Fuera.
Out of the room.
No podemos estar así toda la tarde.
I'm saying this because we can't spend all afternoon doing that. Let's do our best.
¿Qué pasa? ¿Qué pasa? Estamos ya, nos hemos venido arriba.
What's going on? And now we're full of speed, are we? No, we got it, more or less. Palau de la música, and apologies to the technicians, operators, sound operators, etc. EAE Business School, please.
Bienvenidos a la anual reunión
to
de
the
alumni
annual
de
alumni
EAE
homecoming
Business School. Qué
of
maravilla,
the
presenta.
EAE Business
Son
School.
Bueno, vamos a arrancar.
So we're going to start. We have the 4 presentation, and we're going to start. We're going to start with May Lopez, manager of companies for sustainable mobility and a teacher at the RSC, social corporate responsibility and sustainable logistics at the EAE. Welcome. It's quite a challenge to start and break the ice, so please be empathic with me. What an incredible moment. Thank you so much for allowing me to be here with you. Thank you so much. It is a great pleasure to be here. Apologies because I always start with the same picture. It's a picture of my daughter having a drink of polluted water, dirty water, that obviously she's not drinking. But what a mother I would be if I was allowing my daughter to be drinking non-drinking water. But let's remember that we are using 2 liters of water and breathing 7,200 liters of air per day. Air that is not drinking, air that has been polluted. 300,000 premature deaths in Europe, and half the population breathes polluted air. But we're not doing anything. If the water is dirty out of our tap, we don't say anything, and we don't mind. So I'm sharing with you, and I'm talking about the earth resources, huge, and in one day we're going to use up all the resources of the earth, and each year those resources are becoming scarcer. We are using all of the resources of the planet, and we're going to be using most of them, and at the pace we're going to have used up 3 planets by 2030. I'm not sure what you think that, but we can't go to the space yet. This is my daughter again. You're going to be part of my family soon, but I want you, if you like, to do or play a small exercise. Please look at yourselves in this mirror. We're going to do this exercise. I want you to imagine a mirror and yourselves looking at it. Of course, you look wonderful, and because we're all here. And I want you to think that I want you to think about what you're wearing, not just your clothes, but anything you are wearing. And please think about it. I'll give you a moment. And by the same token, think of the way you came here, not by helicopter, not by plane, but by what means did you come here? And we see 2 photos that speak for themselves. One with traffic congestion, and transport is responsible for 17% of the CO2 emissions. But if we focus on Spain, just cars create 15% of those CO2 emissions in Spain. If to that we add ships and transporting goods, etc., that would be up. And so this, the majority of those times is by car, private cars. And the rest is textile waste. A T-shirt just needs 270 liters of water. We have created 200,000 tons of waste in just Spain. Are we being coherent? And I bring these two photos together because more and more so we are changing our mobility habits, but we are not aware that we are creating indirect mobility, because in the end our purchasing decision makes for someone to move for us, with every time more polluting vehicles. And because of my prompt purchase, I want everything to be delivered at once. I'm talking about CO2 and the air quality and that dirty water glass. And please forgive me, but I'm going to be I'm going to tell you about my story. I'm just like all of you, but I want to share two projects of which I'm very proud of. One is in 2013, we did the first project for the whole of Spain, where pre-cooked food was given to social canteens, something that hadn't occurred up until now, and we changed the regulations so that could be done. We fulfilled the criteria so that was feasible, because there's also a great food waste, and we were able to cause an impact that has lasted over time. And in the second case, one of the other projects that I led, it's about a diesel van led by self-employed people that turned and started using natural gas. This was in 2018 and was one of the best initiatives out of 17 as in part of the EU. And right now there are subsidies for this transformation. A lot of business plans depend on that, and these are examples of initiatives that have caused an impact and that have lasted over time. And people like yourselves wanted to change things, and they knew they could do it for environmental and social well-being, and of course for a financial or economic well-being. I'm the manager for a company that aims at being sustainable, and we are helping thousands of companies. We've got awards for mobility, and you have time to present yourselves with your project up until the 22nd. And I have a network that is entrega.org, and why do we do this? Because we are dealing with mobility and consumer habits. We are creating those habits that cause an impact on CO2, on the air quality, on traffic accidents, and we're going to do a study with the EAE Business School, and you'll be able to see how great the impact e-commerce is doing on the environment, socially, and also on the economics. And what we're doing is something linear. That was the way we were working, but that's obsolete, out of date. Remember the 1.7 planets that we will have used up this year. As for the European Commission and worldwide, we're talking about circular economy, where we don't only need to re-put in that circuit everything that we use and the waste, but also design things so that we cause the least impact. And these small circles that we see around them are the ODDs, what we see more and more, and that they are so much talked about. And these sustainable development objectives are what will cause an impact with circular economy, but we need to go towards a spherical economy where each organization will not just be aiming at performing within the environment, and we've just had the COP26, but also create a positive impact wherever it is operating. And these are the 17 SDGs to create, of course, business, but amongst all those impact to make it less for the environment. This is the spherical economy, and I was able to present this for the National Spanish Environmental Conference, and also tonight, because more and more so people are talking about this spherical economy. Why am I talking about this? Because we're going to redo the exercise. You're going to transfer yourselves to that mirror, be facing it, and you're going to enable me to become emotional, because I do get emotional just thinking about it. Because on that mirror, myself, and I hope that yourselves, you're going to be starting to see people who want change. You're going to see people who work in leading companies. I said before, you are the talent for the present and for future times. And these people are changing the world, changing the future, not just for an economic performance, but also something that will create an environmental change, because we are over-consuming, and that's affecting the air that we all are breathing. You are the changing agents, the agents for change. And yes, you'll be able to come up here on the stage and talk about your projects that cause an impact. And so if that was possible, you'll also be able to do that. And that's our future. By 2050, the European Pact talks about environmental neutrality. And by that time, 100 cities need to be neutral. We need to believe in this future, and we need to create it ourselves. A future where the SDGs will be the common language, where the organizations will understand that collaborating with other organizations will be like contributing towards the SDGs. And us, as a city, as consumers, we need to start asking those organizations and asking for a sustainable support and contributing for those SDGs in a realistic manner. And we must do it that way. It's not that we must do it right, but rather they're not acting properly. We need to acknowledge, we need to recognize, and in Spanish it is the word is spelled the same way, frontward or backwards. And every time we acknowledge or recognize that someone is doing something rightly, this comes back to us. We think about the circular economy. We have to think about the organizations that are helping change and that are creating positive impacts on the environment, but also on the economy, and also socially. Because if us as consumers are able to recognize those organizations, those that will not do it will also do it and recognize them, and it will be the only way so that all of us will be able to live in that city that we're aiming at. What is the key piece? It's yourselves, and that's the motto of EAE, today, tomorrow, to you. And I don't want the sniper to be shooting his laser beam at me, so I'll stop here. Thank you so much.
Un lujo tu ponencia, de verdad, muchísimas gracias.
Quite
por tu
a
interesantísima
luxury and honor to have
intervención
been listening to you. Mobility, consumer consumption habits. You have given us quite a good do here. I just hope I won't be here in 2050. I took note of some of the figures that you have told us. You've talked about 7,200 liters of polluted air, and I understand now why my father-in-law breathes them out of his lungs. You've talked about spherical economy. That's great, and you've told us that this is where we need to go to, and I've got that in my family. My brother-in-law is a spherical dummy, a dull person, silly person, because whatever way you look at, he never understands it. And you've also and I also understood that talking about all the way down with drink or beers, there is no time. Up with a beer or down with a beer, I would say in English. Yeah, this is called, it's a language figure. We are now talking about the sustainable world of 5G that's going to be now explained to us, but there's a lot more to it than just mobile phones. I've seen all of you, those of you who were here on time, and I thank you for that. I know you looked at the video, watched the video, or maybe you learned it or memorized it, I'm not sure. And I saw you fiddling with your mobile. Of course, we are in this era. We are at the 5G century, and we're going to be explained where we are going to. And do you realize we can't leave home without our phone, and we are just touching ourselves somehow to try and look for our phone, and oh my God, if I've got my phone, then it's like 20% battery left. What am I going to do? I'm lost. I'm at a loss. We are sick. Yes, I'm not just talking about cell phones. I see huge mobile phones. I've seen some of you with ceramic knobs for cooking and that big. And the other day, we've all become crazy with mobile phones. There's everything: contacts, calendar, emails, WhatsApps. And remember the first ones, those huge bricks, and you were talking, and I'm talking to you. Yes, I'm getting pins and needles in my arm because I'm being so long on my phone call. But now, yes, I've got the iPhone number, whatever, and this last version, etc. There's no chats. There's yeah, we all only talk about Google, and they've just got statistics for Google. Do you know what's the word most looked for in Google so far? Porno. The second, porno. But are we crazy? Have we gone nuts? What with phone mobiles? I've seen you all. Okay, I'm coming in. I'm getting in. Yeah. I want to go back to SMSs, where you had to pay. You had to pay for your text messages. Well, with SMSs, we reduced the word so much that, you remember? And sometimes I would be told such an encoded message that I wouldn't understand anything. But now we belong to WhatsApp groups. But those WhatsApp groups are terrible. But of course, we have to understand the difference between men and women's WhatsApp groups. So for men, one will say, okay, beer today at 8. The answers, okay. I'll be late. And how many out of the 17? 19. And they'll have their beer without having to reconvene. And I'm running a risk here, but WhatsApp for women. 19 women in that group, and one says, "Good morning," says one woman. And the other one answers, "Good morning," and with a big smile. And the other one says, "Did you get up well and nicely today?" And then she has smiles and a flamenco dancer, etc. Okay, joking apart, now with this meeting, I have the pleasure to introduce you to Federico Ruiz, head for the National Spanish Observatory 5G for the Barcelona Mobile World Capital and manager of the 5G Observatory for Spain. So great applause for him. The stage is yours.
Muchísimas gracias. Hemos tenido un recorrido.
Thank you very much. We've talked about mobility, and so what I'm going to say is almost irrelevant because we've heard, for example, about SMEs being having to pay for them or not, and we've also heard about the previous speaker about mobility. So there have many changes since the 2G and the 5G. The previous speakers asked me the question. They told me, "Is 5G here?" Yes, it is. It is already in our cities, in the center of our cities, where normally you will have the uses for citizens. So 5G is already here. 5G is mobility technology that's going to accompany us in the next years. To us, it means 10 years. From the moment we start to deploy technology and the time it becomes obsolete, let me tell you that this lasts only for 10 years. We are already working on the 6Gs. So, why haven't we seen this with 2, 3, 4G? Because the world has opened its worlds. We are seeing how a standard develops and deploys. And the proof that this is important is that all big economies are actually quarreling in order to be leaders for 5G. So one of the questions that we have to deal with in the observatory is to face this skepticism of the public. Some have heard about latencies, others about reliability. So this is what is important for 5G. In order to understand why this is important, I invite you to travel back in time at the beginning of the century. We've heard about what happened in the 20s and the 30s in the case of SG. So let's go back to the past where we didn't have YouTube, we didn't have Google, we didn't have an iPhone, we didn't have e-commerce. So modems were at home making some sort of telephone-like noise. And so let's travel back in time. How many of you would want to be back in past and know that YouTube and being able to post things would cause such a revolution as it was? Between YouTube and Instagram and TikTok, the change has been basically just a development of how you post things online. Now imagine that we had the capacity to change this and to add 3D content, to add the elimination of distance and time. The pre-pandemic Christmas, we had a session why 5G was important. We invited philosophers, politicians, and business people, and we had a debate on this, maybe because Christmas was near and we wanted to just talk a lot, and then we just debated on, we talked about the 5G in time and space, but I think it is a picture of what the 5G would end up being. You have heard about metaverse, parallel universes, the world that we are addressing ourselves. So if we go back to the pre-pandemic times, we see that we are eliminating distance. We move in a world where distance is not important, where time is not important, because we can face a world that is completely virtualized, where we live in a virtual time. We can replay things that we have not seen, a world where gaming and reality intertwine. So the change in regulation, the changes in the behavior and habits, the previous presentations has talked already about these changes. And imagine, for example, the possibility of going back and try to guess the lottery number that will be the winner. So I invite you to look back and think of what companies will be the YouTubes, the Amazon, the Google companies of this virtualized world, of this 3D world where we have eliminated distance and time. So I think that having invited you to do this reflection is going to help you to understand why 5G is important and why there's so much fight about this. The 5G that we have now is let's say an initial one. The changes are very often happen over time, and this is something that happens in the 21st century. So we could see fast change, and we could see how an economy, a country actually moves faster than others. With 2G, Europe moved forward in front of the United States. With 4G, United States was at the head, because there are these technological giants that are promoting very important social changes as well. In Europe, we are seeing this, we are living this change in a way as spectators, as viewers. We have initiatives. In the observatory is one of them. The European Commission has several initiatives of programs in order to dwell into the 5G world. And we're talking about an industrial 5G, things to do with sustainability, manufacturing, industry, mobility, a ubiquitous inalambric communication that is going to have a strong impact. But the large impact is going to take place when all of you are connected to 5G, when all of you are elaborating, are creating this new 5G world, because then we have economies of scale. 5G, industrial 5G is all very well, but it'll be a limited 5G, limited that will not reach the economies of scale. We have a world that is organized through two user interfaces, depending on the kind of mobile phone you have. You use one or the other. So this is a giant, a huge change, because in the past every product that was launched at the market had to manufacture their own user interface. Now we know, we have the habits, we know instinctively what key we have to press. We sell 1,200 million mobile phones in the world. So economies of scale, if you consider that together with the social impact of 5G for citizens, this opens up a very important future. So nowadays, there's someone thinking of what will be the next YouTube, Instagram, or TikTok for the 5G. Well, before the pandemic, we had the first holographic calls. I saw Star Trek and these kind of films to see the first call through holography, even if it was limited to a 3D environment. Really, that was a very touching moment for me. We repeated this experience in Barcelona, because in Barcelona, Barcelona is lucky enough to have the Mobile World Congress every year, so there you can see all the novelties that the mobile technology brings. So the development of mobile technology does not always happen the way we expect it to happen, because the first time that the Mobile World Congress took place in Barcelona, one of the things that were discussed is the lowest price that a mobile phone could cost. What is the cost of a 5G mobile now? Much lower than in the past. So it is not very difficult to predict the future. So I ask you to think about what could happen in the future. Of course, there are no guarantees of what will happen. There's just a thinking about what could happen. So this is the future for which the big economies are getting ready for. So I invite you to travel in time to think whether it could be you, one of you, who could actually give birth to the new YouTube or TikTok or Instagram for the future. My daughter, during the pandemic, asked me to have a music teacher, and while I was driving, I had several teachers offering their services. In a 5G world, I can choose a teacher all over the world, because we can actually we can go from watching a video online to the live experience, to the synchronic real life experience, let's say. So depending on the kind of business model that we want to impose, if we reflect about all these changes, we would be able to do away with all the skeptical reasoning, because in Barcelona, for example, this year we carried out an activity where we had more than 1 GB per second. This, of course, that was a very punctual moment, and I would like to have this in everyday connection. But this is the kind of world we will have in the future. In our mobile phone, we could have, for example, an assistant telling me what is maybe the best, telling me how to get here through the shortest way, for example. So one of the challenges that we have as a society is this future, because to regulate and to control this intertwining of the real and virtual worlds, and you are now sitting in physical chairs, but you could be sitting in a virtual chair and watching us online. So the world is crypto-native. The virtual world is going to move in a natural way through blockchain assets. So artificial intelligence algorithms are going to be present in every part of our lives. So the world has to move towards having confidence in citizens and governments. So I leave you with this food for thought, certain reflections on the 5G. It is probably also because we are approaching Christmas again, that I ask you to go away a little bit from the basic technical characteristics of 5G and think of what could happen in the future. Of course, there's no guarantee. You have to take the risk of citizens and developers of new business models and new companies based on the 5G. So I launch this challenge to you.
Muchísimas gracias.
Thank you very much, Federico. This has been a very interesting speech where we'll talk. I have taken notes of what you said. There's time and distance are no longer important. He just said it and left it there for us to think. It took me 3 hours to come here. 1,200 mobile phones are bought every day in the world. We are working on the 5G, but when you have a date tomorrow, tell your partner, we are in a crypto native world, because I have studied in EAE. And you, if they ask you, what do you mean? Please do not answer, of course. You've talked about YouTube, Federico. Well, I want to ask you because Federico has said that you will be the next social media developers. Please choose easy names. I told a friend of mine, do you say YouTube or YouTube? And he said, well, YouTube, because YouTube in Spanish would be a verb in the past tense. I have a neighbor. I live in the second. I live on the third floor, and my second floor neighbor is one of these this young person whose name is Jonathan, and he's told me, I am an influencer, he said. I said, well, you are not, you are something worse. Influencer is my granny that he has called meatballs for all her life, and he has actually made everybody to use this word. Well, the next speaker, maybe one of you have the translation device, and now you are going to hear the next talk in English. You know that the Spaniards are the only citizens in the world that spend the whole life learning English. If we do not know a word, we just invent it, but we put it the right intonation. So we are going to hear the next speaker speaking real English. The last time I was in London, and this is true, the sound operator came with me, and while we had a coffee, this is true. We were in London, and the sound technician told me, I'm going to the toilet, please. And he told me, please ask a beer for me. And I said, 2 birds. And he said, you asked for birds, not beers. And then I said, 2 bears. And then I'll have the whole zoo here. I just wanted beers. What time is it? If you say what time is it, that they understand, and you just pay, and there's a problem with your English, not that book. Now I'm going to give the floor to Antones, who is Global Excellence Supply Planning, Crop Science. And he is also member of the advisory board at EAE, and she's going to tell us about digital transformation, which is so timely.
Muchas gracias. Bueno, la primera parte la he puesto un poco complicada, pero la segunda, bien. Miembro del Consejo Asesor de EAE. Hasta ahí bien, ¿eh? Muchas gracias.
Pero no la hace en inglés.
Thank you very much.
22 years in supply chain. I started my career buyer, and at that time, customers were placing the orders by phone or by fax. I mean, when the customers were calling, the admins were using, I'm not sure some of you might remember, these papers that were like carbon paper with a white copy, a pink copy, and a yellow copy. So we're taking notes on the white one, and then the information was copied over the others, right? And then one copy was given to finance, the other copy was given to customer service, and then the last one was for the warehouse, so they can prepare the order for the customers. So, well, some of you might not know what I'm talking about, as I see a lot of young faces. But well, so over the last 22 years, a lot has happened. And through my career, what I learned, or one of the things that I learned from the digital space and so on, is that the more technology, the more people matter, right? So, okay, so at Bayer Crop Science, we are committed to digital transformation, not only internally for our own internal systems, but also to our customers. So I want to talk a little bit about the area of Bayer that I'm going to talk about, because it might be a little bit a surprise for some of you. So in Bayer, there are 3 divisions: the pharmaceuticals, the non-prescriptive medicines. These are probably the area where you recognize Bayer, like aspirin, that everybody knows what it is, and you might have tried other medicines. But then there is a 3rd division. And this division is taking care of agriculture. So basically, we're selling the seed that the growers are planting in the field, and then the crop protection that is used to take care of these plants, so we can have healthy plants and higher yield. So that's the piece that I will be talking about. So when you think about Bayer, and I'm not talking about aspirin, so you understand, that there is this 3rd division that I will be referring to. So to start with, demand. So demand for nutrition and for food is growing as population is growing as well. So we need to consider also that with the climate change and also with all the natural disasters that we are seeing, as well as infestations in the fields, what we are seeing is that we have more demand of nutrition and therefore to produce more food. But on the other hand, we see how the arable land, the land that you can, plant, is reducing, right? So for that, if we really want to feed the world in a sustainable way, right, it's very critical to move towards a digital transformation and use, all these data and all these tools to find this, this efficiency of producing more with less. So, as industry leaders, we want to shape agriculture to benefit farmers, consumers, and our planet. And this ties with what Mai has been explaining earlier as well. So we want to, we're committed to this digital transformation, as I said before, not only internally, but also towards our customers. So the first thing we want to do is looking at tailored solutions. So we want to move away from the volume-based business, like trying to sell as much bags and as much liters of chemicals, but really tailored solutions to every field in our customers' land, right? So we want to provide these tailored solutions to maximize and be more sustainable. So how we want to do that? We want to move from a volume-based business to output-based business, meaning that we commit to our customers on a yield, or let's say a product that they are going to have after the harvest, and then we provide the inputs to these customers in a combination of seeds and crop protection to make sure that we are only using and maximizing, the production in that field. Okay, so that's what we call tailored solutions. And of course, if we want to do that and we want to control very well how the plants are growing in the field, what is the temperature in the field, what is the level of water, and other types of critical information to understand what will be the outcome of a field, we need to become more digital, okay? So tailored solutions are key to sustainably making or managing resources and improving our productivity. Good. So there are a couple of elements that are critical that we are considering when thinking internally how we want to become more digital and what we want to offer to our customers so they also become more digital and therefore we can maximize, right? And we can go through this transformation. So one thing, transform our customer engagement. So as I said, if we want to move from selling seeds and crop protection chemicals to selling an output to our customers, guaranteeing this output, and then we decide the inputs that will go there, and we support and control, the entire process. For example, one thing that will be different is that our customers will not place orders, right? But we will make agreements on these outcomes and then make sure we provide the inputs to secure the outcomes, okay? So that's one of the aspects that we are looking at the customer in a different way. Of course, if we want to do that, right, go through this transformation in the way we serve our customers, we also need to think about how we want to organize our supply chain, right? So we want to, if we think about the customer today and we think about the customer, how we serve the customer in the future, we will be taking care of the needs of every field that our customer has, and therefore is much more tailored. And this adds a lot of complexity, so we need to be careful on the cost efficiencies, right? So we really want to change in supply chain and move to an end-to-end supply chain that really supports this change. The third element is deliver innovative products through a predictive pipeline. And that's also about data, right? So how we want to make sure that all the data, the more data that we have and how we organize this data to help us predict, what are the needs that will be coming and therefore be ready for those. So that's more to become more let's say, proactive than reactive. And I want to insist on the importance on the data for the digital transformation. And for that, the three elements are critical, right? Are critical inputs for this decision. So the first one is the customer, right? So transform our customer engagement, customer, supply chain, and then our products, right? So collecting all these critical inputs, organizing them, and using them to predict, will help us to go for new business models that fit the needs of the future. So with that, I want to show you, a video. I hope you enjoy it.
Acting in work, data is often relegated to spreadsheets, receipts, footnotes. But open up the hood on any of our most exciting innovations, and there it is. Data. In the hands of a few free thinkers, digital technology and data-driven insights come together to transform human experiences. Letting us listen to the fields farmers plant, and a listen in the fight against climate change. Building tools that serve smallholders, and a future that serves everyone. Unlocking technology that means the difference between hunger and health for all. At Bayer, digital is the engine that drives innovation and sustainability. Digital is a group of visionaries who can look at a crowded field of information and see the future. Because for something so digital, our work is surprisingly human.
Okay, I hope you enjoy the video. So I talk a little bit about the vision that we have, and we also talk about how our product, or how we want to evolve our product, right, in order to serve our customers better. So now I want to talk a little bit about supply chain. That's the area that I'm in the crop science supply chain area. So just to have an idea on the importance of supply chain in the digital transformation, so we have 40,000 employees in the crop science division, in the agricultural division, from which almost half of them are part of supply chain. Okay, we have more than 140 production facilities across the world, and more than 100,000 product SKUs for seed and crop protection at the same time. And we serve to more than 60,000 growers. So, important to mention that nowadays, I want to talk a little bit about this, North Star that we created and where this is coming from. So we just had, out of a couple of acquisitions, we have nowadays 3 different supply chains, right? And we have a perfect excuse now to make the big change and really integrate those 3 supply chains and find new tools and new, ways to move faster into this digital transformation internally to serve our customers, right? So from current state, we want to set the foundation of a digital, let's say, mindset, right? So for that, first we went through this integration of the organizations. Now we are working on integrating processes and also identifying what are those processes or those steps that are not adding value to our customers, so we can somehow clean that up to be ready for the move to new systems and new technologies. So also very important, differentiation and personalization. So our customers coming from different organizations as well, right, are expecting that we treat them in a very personalized way. And if you remember when I talk about the outcome-based model, right? So when we want to treat each field in a personalized way to maximize the way that we grow this field and we get the results. So, and at the end you see that this North Star with the 3 supply chains, together, we really believe that it's gonna, reaching that North Star will really dramatically change the way that we operate. Yeah, so we see 4 maturity stages in our end-to-end connected supply chain in our journey. So starting from the typical silo approach that many companies have or are trying to move away from, into a more connected, near real-time situation with network visibility, meaning trying to connect all these sites that we have and see how they can talk to each other and maximize those as well. So want to become then, move to the next step, that is being more intelligent, having this collaboration more digitally, right, and being able to have these personalized and proactive decision recommendations, right? But at the end goal, what we really want is an end-to-end autonomous supply chain, right? And we want that through the artificial intelligence. You have heard about this, I'm sure, and how we can have this end-to-end supply chain that is telling us where the issues and the risks are towards what our customers want, right? And what are the contingencies, and how to we put people together to take the best decisions with the best data. Okay, so this is just a quick summary on a couple of things that I mentioned through my presentation. I'm at the end of the presentation, so I'm not going to repeat all the steps here as you see them, but I want to finish my presentation reinforcing or in a similar way that I started, right? So really, the most important aspect, or one key aspect of achieving this digital transformation, both internal and also external towards our customers, is people, right? How we can give the right tools to people, whether our employees or our customers, to make the best, of what they have in hands, like doing their job or having the best field and the best product, in the most sustainable way for our future. So that's the end of the presentation. I want to thank you very much. It's been a pleasure to share with you the digital transformation journey we are in. So I just put my email. So if you want to just connect, that would be a pleasure if you want to know more. Thank you very much.
Muchas gracias, Ada.
Thank you so much, Ada. It is really good when we talk about digital transformation. The first example is the one we go through as a consumer. And then by looking at these examples, there are such an inspiration. The next speech is very special to us because as a school, what we work on is to try and create the ambience where entrepreneurship can occur. And during entrepreneurship, meetings occur between entrepreneurs and investors. So as a school, we work very hard at this, and we are very proud to bring former pupils, and I'll now list them: Diego Figueroa from Peru, Juan José Márquez from Mexico, and Juan Miguel da Silva from the Philippines. And they've made their project Jaibu H2O, making drinking water, non-drinking water, drinking water by using filling stations. So please welcome them.
Hola.
Good afternoon, good evening. I'm Miguel, and I'm one of the three founders. I'm with Diego and with Juanjo, and I'm going to be telling you the story and about a company, Jaibu, which is a transforming experience. In 2018, we came here to do our master's degree at EAE, and since then, after partying and the early mornings, we did meet after all the studying too, and a bond was established. And what was going to happen? We started to be entrepreneurs. We did our thesis, and with Diego discovered that 10 million plastic bottles reached the market in Spain. So from that, we decided to produce something with a purpose and something that was our project, Jaibu, which is to drink water, which is convenient, responsible, and especially free of plastic. And now we are a founded company with a couple of clients in Barcelona and in Valencia, and ready to be launched. Also, we are starting our contact with educational centers, and very soon we hope to do practice work with public administration authorities. And we are here, and we have to have come all this way. It has been quite an adventure, with happy and sad times, with joy and unhappiness, with lots of different aspects. And if talking about the family, I'd like to talk about the Jaibu team. Diego is the CDO, and Juanjo is our CEO. And I can say that they take life too seriously. I'm from the Philippines, and what's important is to work with machines. I do 200% of the work and double their tasks because I take twice as long. And also, very soon we are going to have a new member in our team, but that's an announcement for a different time. Hi, Liz. So it's a multitask, a multicultural team. And how did this team start? We, Diego and me, did the same master's degree, and never before had we worked together, but having seen our common points, trust was there, and I would say that he was the best of friends. But during his birthday party, he rang me at 3 a.m. after a long studying day, because such is life for students. So he invited me to his party. I went, and I thought it was the time. I think it was the time when he thought to include me in his team. We met again, and I said yes to being part of his team, and that's how we founded Jaibu. And we didn't take into account how important it was to have such a wonderful and strong team. But none of the three of us realized that we need to value a team with which you can feel at ease when working and also discussing or maybe fighting, but above all, smiling and having a good time while spending many hours to make this our own business. We established a business plan, and all the stuff that we need to do a startup, to launch ourselves, and we were ready. And that's what we thought at the time, because the next time with the EAE lab changed everything. We had to start from scratch, and then we had to do a TFM with some of the entrepreneurs by creating a project. And when we were being entrepreneurs, especially abroad, many obstacles happen, but one of the most complicated things is contacts with a Filipino, a Mexican, and a Peruvian. And so EAE Lab helped us quite a lot with contacts. We started our project with the most lean possible way. What does this mean? To be productive quickly, cheap, and by validating all the whole processes. So we started from scratch. The problem was at the center, and within the lab, we said that the idea was to create interviews, establish interviews, chats, and seeing how people use public water fountains. It means that you're either doing a project or your life is changing. So we had we did some brainstorming about ideas on bottle shapes, and that's why we focused on the public water fountains. And it means that nowadays people don't use them, or they stopped running. And after all these insights, we made a list, drew up a list of requirements to which we gave a solution. First, it had to have an inclusive design, a personality, or it should be it could be used by some handicapped person. Also, it would need a filtering system. And also, we are a company that want to collaborate, aim at collaborating and being part of a community. And although water is drinking water by regulation, we do know that the taste is so-so. So with all these requirements, we went on to designing it, and that's why we created such design. But it wasn't easy. It was a whole process that led us to this first cardboard mock-up, where we decided on the sizes, the ergonomy, the way to use it, and we did our first tests with users, and we bought a cheap pump, and I was behind a table hiding it, and I could see that way how people would use it, but that wasn't enough. So the second prototype was made of aluminium to be a more trustworthy product, but although inside it was a disaster, glued with silicone, and it would fall apart very easily. And the third prototype was to be made of steel, but then the pandemic started. We had to stop with the design process, but this is when we realized that there was something that we did have as entrepreneurs. First, we were resilient, and that's when we made proof, all of us, through a pandemic, and also the capacity to change and to be pivoting. Some of the things needed to be changed, also according to the regulations. And so we did this system of sensors, and when the lockdown ended, we decided to use this type of steel and to test it in their premises. In Mataró. The next step, with the help of a colleague, was to get to Regina V4.0, and this is now on the point of being finished, on the point of being sold. And why is it not finished? Because you can always keep on improving it, and this is why what we see now and what we have now is 80% different from the first one or the previous one. But we also realize that we need a new Regina, and Diego will tell you more about it next. Okay, we've spoken about our experience as pupils from EAE and through the lab also. But the question is, who are these three guys, and what does Jibu do exactly? Jibu is the option to bottled water in a more sustainable, responsible, and convenient way with the refilling stations, intelligent refilling stations. But we're not understanding a thing, are we? They look great, yes, that's a fact. There are water fountains connected to the main water system with a filtering system to improve the taste of the water. So now, so far so good. So why are they intelligent? These water fountains have been designed putting the user in focus at the center, and counts on sensors so that there is no contact between the user and the machine when there is this interaction. And this provides us also information. How many liters is each machine supplying? How many people have used the machine? Or an estimate of how many water bottles are we avoiding by using this option. And so according to the market, we can also state how much water we are saving. We are a company made up of 10 people, no more than 10. And on a yearly basis, each person will use 60 water containers, and we know that we use up to 7 liters containers, to clean them up, and this company is just wasting over 400 liters a year just to wash those water containers. And if we can quantify this negative impact, it would be good also to measure what's the positive impact if we can then provide a different option. So this is why Jibu is sharing this with its clients. This is a report with the impact chart that you'll be able to know that in 2 months you will have avoided over 5,000 plastic bottles. And not just with the Jibu resilience stations, but also to make users more responsible. These are just hard data figures, but that how do we really see this in reality? We have been sent some photos, some talks in classrooms or at the studies sessions from EAE, but nowadays that the refilling stations are at the campuses in EAE, we can see a change. The users are loading their refillable bottles with water, and they tasted the water and they saw that it tasted good, and that's adequate again. It's convenient. This is at the beginning. We have 12 between Valencia and Barcelona. But we're very proud that in such a short time we've avoided using 10,000 plastic bottles. But what comes next? In 2022, we'll be validating different sectors such as events and sports centers. Also, we are positioning them where we already are present. Also, we need a financial injection to be able to expand and at the same time develop new projects. And nowadays, currently, we're going to present our new Jaibu table. Table cup. It's for reduced spaces, like to be put in an office, or why not at home, in households. And yes, I want to say that to be an entrepreneur is extremely hard, and to do it abroad is an even greater challenge. This is why it's so important to choose which are the strategies, the strategic partners that we're going to have, and that's why we want to thank EAE, the EAE Lab, to have accompanied us. And if I can say that if people are helping, if you are to do a project, help use these tools and go to the campus of EAE. You'll see our machine and you'll enjoy and have a wonderful water experience. Thank you so much.
Muchísimas gracias, de verdad.
Thank you so much. Really.
Qué maravilla.
How wonderful.
Qué maravilla, además, cuando habéis
How wonderful.
empezado.
Also, when you started, a Mexican, a Filipino, and a Peruvian. This calls for a joke. We have the three of them, but no, I'm not going to make a joke on that. Amazing, this business, and I'm sure that in 2022 there'll be one of your machines. I haven't been in the Philippines, in Peru, but yes, Mexico, yes, you can write it with an X or with a J, like Spain, but what attracted my attention is like the Juanjo, the Mexican. They call boliches or canteens what is a cafeteria. And there's a billiard table, but they don't play because they eat tacos up. But just note what session we're having today, and when EAE Business School leadership called on me. It was to be today, 19th of November, an eclipse day. And I'm saying this, why is it such a special day? Because in the Palau de la Música, and making the most of this gathering of alumni, I'm going to enable the president, its president, to now speak. Our president of the alumni. So today is not only special to me, but what day is it today? Is the day for Women's Entrepreneurship Day. How wonderful can this be? So I want to call on stage Carmen Pumariño, who's going to give an award, a very special award. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, all of you. It is a pleasure to be here, all of us together. I'm Carmen Pumariño. but I'm here on behalf of women's entrepreneurship, and also on behalf of EAE Business School, and that is promoting women's entrepreneurship. Today it's the International Day for Women's Entrepreneurship, and when the United Nations decided on this day, it was to make visible the effort of entrepreneur women. We're not going to be different from men. What's important here is the challenges and the obstacles that us women are facing. What are these challenges? We don't have referrals, not female ones. We don't have much investment. Why? I could spend the whole afternoon until you get bored, stiff. But basically, two pieces of information. According to this information, as per the entrepreneurship mapping, only 20% of the companies founded have a woman as a leader of the company in the leadership team. But also, as per the data in 2020, only 10% of the investor angels were women. If we don't have women investors, the investment is not going to go to the women investors, so the women will not risk it because they have less capacities to survive their own startup. So to be an entrepreneur is extremely hard, but we have entities such as the EAE Business School that is going for this entrepreneurship for women. And in the last few years, we have collaborated with the UN and with 10 years from now, and entrepreneurship from the Middle East. Imagine what challenges these women in those countries have to face. Also, the Women's Initiative this year is there to make this visible in all work scenarios. Also, we have a special program focusing on the startup, including 25 investor women's, leading or led by women for STEM. Also in Madrid, a report was presented by alumni and also a women entrepreneur called The Story of Women as Entrepreneurs. Also next week, we'll be sharing the table with our institutions, talking about entrepreneurship from the institutional side and how we are giving support to those entrepreneurs along their progression. I have done this myself. I have been an entrepreneur, and after 1.5 years fighting and having a hard time, but also enjoying it, it is true, I must say, that it's a constant fight and hardship, and I have been part of an incubator, and I didn't know that I had such help so close to me. So do ask for help and come to us, reach us. And once again, the school wants to make one entrepreneur woman, and so we're going to call on stage Philippa Morris. To whom we giving this award for her capacity for innovation, her courage, and her strength. Thank you. I am very happy that EAE has awarded this to me, because I think it shows how they are supporting their students and their alumni in everything, especially in the reality that is called to be an entrepreneur, made up of success but also failure. I'm a co-founder of Scoop, which is a sports nutrition startup to make food varied with compostable capsules and sports drinks. I have dedicated 2 years in my life to Scoop, this startup company, and although sadly we decided to close the company down. It has been an incredible experience, and throughout the whole of this time, the school has really helped us. During my entrepreneur master's time, I had a lot of help from the lab, and one of the things that I learned was to be an entrepreneur is a frame of mind, and what's important is to always fight, to learn from your mistakes, and also to always look for opportunities. And if at the beginning you're not going to be successful, you can try again. And as we say in English, if at first you don't succeed, try and try again. This is a mindset, so this is an opportunity. So thank you, EAE, for all that support.
Quedaros un momento en el medio.
Congratulations. Please stay on stage in the center, and we're going to take a photo. And the photo is going to be wonderful, of course, because we have a wonderful professional photographer. Please look at the camera. That would help. Okay. And we'll also ask for the president of the school, of the Alumni Association, to be on the photo. Do you have some shots left? The photographer? That's great. Great, fantastic. Thank you so much, Filipa, for her words, for what she has told us, because they reach our hearts. Now we're going to the next batch. We're going to be listening to Andreas Vagant, who was chief scientist of Amazon.com and helped create this culture, client-focused. He's a professor at the Stanford University of Social Data and E-commerce, and he published his last book, Data for the People, and has been sharing his time as a consultant to trade, education, health, trips, and finance, and has shown how the big data can help and make our life and our lives and our world better. So welcome, Andrea.
Thank you, Nuria. Yeah. Welcome, alumni of the IE Business School, here in Barcelona, and also to the ones who are watching us from far away. The good thing about being on stage is that you don't have to wear a mask. So I know it's not easy for you, and I thank you for being here. My talk is structured into 5 things. First, I give you a little bit about my own background, how I came to be a data person. Second, and that's the main part, I will talk about the 5 steps that made Amazon successful, the ABCDE of Amazon. Then I turn to the rights that we as consumers, as citizens, should have towards the data we create. Fourth, and that I put together here for you, is I talk about some rules I think companies should follow, rules about data, so the companies are successful. And then I'll end by reflecting on what each and every one of you perhaps could be doing. All right. So my background is, of course, I was born in Germany, and I was very fortunate to go to the US for my PhD. So I went to Stanford, and I initially started as a physicist. So the way I think about the world is the way physicists think about the world. What can be measured, and what can be predicted, what can we put together? And then a big opportunity arose, a very risky opportunity. One of the people who invented neural networks, David Rumelhart, had come to Stanford, and a friend of mine asked me whether I want to check him out. So I went there, and he was taking his shoes off and using his socks to wipe the board, and I think, dude, I mean, what are you talking about? I have a solid career as a physicist, and my friend said, give him another chance. So long story short, I then went to my PhD advisor, who was a physicist at SLAC, the Stanford Linear Accelerator Center, and I told Jonathan, who asked me, what are you going to do for your PhD? I told him, well, I've decided to actually not do it here. I know you put a lot of work into getting me accepted and paying me. I want to do it with a guy in the psychology department. And I expected to be thrown out of his office. And he said, wow, if an intelligent person thinks about the world differently from the way I think about it, I want to learn more about this. So I will pay you for another year, but you have to promise that once you get your PhD, you need to give a colloquium and tell us what you did. And that was neural networks. I did the first neural network for prediction, for time series prediction, for, predicting stock market courses or whatever you want to do. So that was a very important decision. And then it turned out that this machine learning, as it's called now, was actually very useful. So I was a professor at the NYU Business School in information systems for a while, and then someday the phone rang, and a headhunter called me and asked me whether I would consider moving up to Seattle to be the chief scientist at Amazon. And I was entirely unconvinced. I thought, why would I want to give up my job of teaching and working at Amazon? But he said, do me the favor and just come up and do the interviews. And at the end of the day, I was more convinced than ever that I did not want to work there. And then they said, well, stay for the night. Order yourself a good bottle of wine on our expenses in your hotel room, which I did. And then the next day, Jeff Bezos showed up and said, okay, I would like you to work with me. And that's what made the difference. So what I wanted to do in the second part of my talk, I want to talk about the most important things, how I'm boiling down the things I learned at Amazon. And for that, I will get the clicker, thank you. And I call this the ABCDE of Amazon. A stands for attention. B for belonging. We all want to belong to something which is bigger than ourselves. C stands for curiosity. D, as you might imagine, stands for data. And E stands for experiments. Because it is not the dead data that is lying around somewhere. So sometimes people say, I have all this data, and then the consultancy comes and says, well, we give you the insights out of the data. That is not how the world works. I think you start with the questions, and then you formulate hypotheses, if you will. That's the scientific method. And you figure out where can reasonable people disagree. You know, if we all agree, there's no point in doing an experiment. But if two people say, well, I think, let's say a specific example from Amazon, that something should be on the top right, and somebody else thinks it should be on the top left, how do you decide between it? You run an experiment. And at a company with so many users as Amazon, you know, within a day at most, you have the answer to any question you can formulate. And this one right now is about the website. So the experiments part is the important one. So A drives us, namely that is attention. Ultimately, everybody is competing for your attention. And I'm very fortunate here that I have the attention of the entire room. Thank you for that. B, I believe, stands for belonging. What do I mean by that? It is a group that we want to identify with. In this case, I think it's the EAE Business School what brings you here. And if you reflect on that, probably each and every one of you feels that that belonging is important. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. And now, let's talk about the C, because I think that is the most important part. Let's see what happens. Yes, here we are. C stands for curiosity. I think in this world where everything is connected, where we can get any data we want, the key, the bottleneck of what I think we should teach our students is what are good questions. A year and a half ago, I had the fortune to have a conversation with Daniel Kahneman, who wrote the book Thinking, Fast and Slow, and got a Nobel Prize in economics. And I've known him for many, many years. And I started the conversation off with saying, Danny, I'd like to ask a question. What is a good question? And he, without missing a beat, said, good question. So a good question is a question that has a potential for a rich answer. Something along those lines. For us, a good question is something which can be expressed in an experiment where, you know, we can have something set up, as the example with the left and the right, and then we get the answer for that. The D is probably where my heart lies, and I want to talk a little bit more about that. Specifically, I wrote a book called Data for the People. And many people say start with the data, but I say we need to start with the questions. And what is the use of data? Well, it is to answer questions, of course, but then even more so to ask better questions. Because I think it's an iterative process where you come up with better questions all the time. And then, of course, to make predictions, to optimize, and to automate. But I want you to embrace that questions often are more important than answers. When people come and tell you that there is a lot of value in the data, I think that's putting the cart in front of the horse. What I believe we need to start with is, what are the decisions we need to make? What are you getting paid for in the companies you work for? You're getting paid for making decisions, right? And I would say we are the decisions we made in life. If there are no decisions, I'm not sure whether there really is all that much. But focusing on the decisions and starting with the decisions that you need to make, in my perspective, is the most important way to go about the collecting the data. So don't start with the data, but start with the decisions. And my belief is that the value of data is the impact the data has on a decision. So if somebody tells you, you know, I can buy those data from a data vendor, you should say, how will the data impact decisions I need to make? And if the answer is no impact, then what's the value of those data? Zero. So start with the decisions, not with the data. Another topic which is very, very close to my heart is the topic of trust. Who to trust? What to trust? And if you think about COVID right now, it is very difficult to know what to trust and who to trust. I mean, there we all sit with masks. I mean, I was tested yesterday, the last time in the morning, and tested negative. But still, people want us to keep masks on all the time. Why? So what really is the trust underlying that? All right. Those were the first two parts. The first part was a little bit about my bio. The second part was the ABCDE of Amazon. There are two parts left. In the third part, I'm going to talk about the perspective of the individual. What rights should we have towards the data we create? And then in the fourth part, I will talk about the rules companies should follow. So here, part 3, data rights for individuals in the post-privacy economy. And that chose those words carefully. Post-privacy. I mean, anybody who believes in privacy probably is not realizing about all the data that's been collected about us. From 2001 to 2017 or 18, I had a home in Shanghai, in China. And it was amazing to see the surveillance state, if you will, take shape. There's a good book, by the way, which is coming out, I think, next year, by Josh Chin and Lisa Lin, who both write for the Wall Street Journal. And the book is called Surveillance State, and really details in an incredible accuracy what is going on in China in terms of post-privacy. But I'm using the word post-privacy economy because what matters to me is to get to the value that the data and the decisions have for us. So, for example, if we share geolocation with Google, Google can give us information how to get from where we are to where we want to go. If we say, oh, I'm not sharing where I am, it's kind of difficult for a navigator to actually give us navigation of saying turn right at the next intersection. So this is my view about the post-privacy economy. So what are those data rights? Here we go. First, the right to access your data. So I really get angry when somebody collects data about me and doesn't give me access. Example, yesterday, the PCR test I did. Yes, the organization where I gave that speech in Austria, they wanted to make sure I'm negative. And then the test center where I went said, oh, we can't mail you the results. That's ridiculous. I want to be able to have access to my data. Second, I think we want to understand what is going on with our data in those data refineries. Data refinery for me, for example, is Google, a company which takes our data. And what do they do? A good example, I think, is Life 360. So if you haven't tried it out yet, Life 360 completely tells you where you have been. Okay, so not only where you have been, but also where your friends who are willing to share with you what they do on Life 360. And I really invite you to try it out and see just how much personal, intimate information there is, and what would you do if you read about your friend that he hasn't left his home for 2 days and 3 hours or something.
tiene más diapos, luego viene... ¡Oh, aplausos!
Gracias a Dios, vamos.
Sorry, Andreas. Sorry. Sí, el tuyo no va a funcionar nunca más, pero vamos, el resto... No is on? Is on? Muy bien.
Is this the condom?
Muy bien.
A condom for the microphone. Okay, great.
Eres mago. Bueno.
It reminds me. Thank you. A man goes to the rabbi and says, Rabbi, I have such a small home and so many children. It is just terrible. I do not know how to continue to live. The rabbi says, why don't you take a goat into your house? Rabbi, I can't take the goat into the house. And the man comes back, it's just terrible. I don't know what to do anymore. How about if you take a horse into the house? How can I take a horse? And so on. And after 5 days like this, a man comes, Rabbi, I don't know what to do. Rabbi says, why don't you let go of the goat and the horse? Okay, come back tomorrow. And the man comes back tomorrow and says, Rabbi, it's amazing. It's the same thing here now. The sound is back, and it's just amazing how that sounds. Okay. All right. So, let's calibrate where we were in this story. I told you a little bit about how I came to data, how I ended up at Amazon. Then I told you attention, belonging, curiosity, decisions, and experiments. Now we turn the perspective to the consumer. What rights should we have as consumers, as citizens, towards the data? And basically it means you should be able to see the data, and it should be able to see what the organizations do with the data. You should be able to amend things. So if, let's say on your Wikipedia page, it says something which you want to change, it is not that you change it and the Wikipedia auditors change it back and you change it and they change it. No. You should be able to basically leave like a comment of saying, I, Andreas Vagant, disagree with this fact which they state about me. The fourth one is something very close to my heart. I told you about Life 360 and about the amazing granularity which tells you not even that I'm in a restaurant, but even where I'm sitting in that restaurant. I believe we should have the right to blur our data. To blur means to fuzzy it out. So maybe that some device knows that I'm standing here on this stage behind the podium. But maybe I just want to say, I have a resolution of 100 kilometers. So they don't know where exactly I am. But hey, they know that I'm in Europe as opposed to the United States. The fifth is the right to experiment. So I love experimentation. And it should also be that each and every one of us has the ability to experiment with the data we have. Let's say you change something which you bought at Amazon or watched at Pornhub or whatever. And then based on that change, you get different recommendations. So it's not only that the companies should be able to do this, but you also should have the right to experiment with the data. And the last one is the right to port your data. Basically, that you should be able to take the data wherever you want to take them, which gives us back to my PCR test yesterday that I wanted to have that, and it came actually handy when I entered Spain in the evening. So those are what I call the agency rights, the right to do something. In the last part of my talk, I'm going to talk about the rules that organizations should have or should follow in this post-privacy economy. And there's a total of 5 rules I have. First rule, start with a question, not with the data. We talked about this already because I think it's something which is very important to me. Try to formulate good questions. Second, focus on the decisions you can take, on the actions you can take. Because ultimately, as I mentioned before, you all get paid for making decisions. Don't focus on the insights. The third one can be controversial. And I believe it is a good rule for an organization to make the implicit explicit, or in other words, to write down the objective function, to make these trade-offs clear. Do you value this more, for instance, the privacy of the person, or do you value that more, the convenience? So make the implicit explicit. Fourth of these rules I have for you is to embrace transparency. J.B. Rangaswamy, when he worked for Deutsche Bank, said, I'm going to open up all of my emails. Anybody at Deutsche Bank could read any email he got and any email he sent. I think most of us probably think that is absolutely crazy. I mean, who of you would be comfortable with that? I wouldn't. But he did the experiment. And here's what he found. He, of course, looked at who is looking at what. And it turned out that nobody really cared for the emails he got. People cared for the emails he sent. So that's an interesting example to embrace transparency. Another one, of course, is Amazon reviews, where, well, whatever you want to say about my book, you can say at Amazon, and that's a way, I think, for an organization to embrace transparency with the goal to help people make better decisions, and better is defined as their objective function. That's the point we just had. The last rule is respect. Respect is super important. I think respect drives almost everything. If you reflect on that, to respect and to empower your customers in the long term, I think is how you keep your customers, how you make them happy. 2 examples. Estonia in Northern Europe has a once-only principle. That means the government can ask you about anything, but only once. And if you have once told them and they ask again, you can say, you already have that information. I'm sorry, I'm not providing it again. And the other one here is understanding the exploration-exploitation trade-off. So you can do experiments to explore more, like in oil, for example. I gave a keynote at Shell, the oil company, and it was kind of funny to tell them about exploration versus exploitation. You can explore new things, or you can exploit what you have. But you need to be clear which of the two you're at in a given moment. So to summarize, question is, does your customer understand the value they get when you ask them to share data with you? Think about it. Whenever you ask somebody to share data, do they understand how their world will be better if they actually give you honest data? If not, hey, if it's just to get through something, I write down some random things as my email, as long as it is an @.com that usually suffices, and give random answers. But if what I get back, if my life is better, if you will, if I give honest answers, I will give honest answers. And this is what your customer needs to understand. So here are the summary of those 5 rules for companies. Start with a question, focus on decisions, make the implicit explicit, embrace transparency, respect your customer. So, I have a couple of open questions left, since I told you that I really believe that questions are more important than answers. And these honestly are questions which I don't know the answers to, not rhetorical questions. 1, what really does data ownership mean? So people say, oh, who owns the data? But what actually does it mean to own data? We know what it means to own an apple. You can eat the apple, or you can give it to somebody and they can eat the apple, that's it. But data is very different, because if I give you my data, I still have a copy of my data. So what does it actually mean to own data? It probably has something to do with what you can do with it. And I had the opportunity to be the digital advisor for Angela Merkel, the soon-to-be former Chancellor of Germany. And these were very interesting questions we had. What should we do with companies that violate the data ownership? If somebody looks at the data because they pass through and then they base some decisions on that. I believe you really need to fine these people more money than they make by doing such a data breach. But this is here the question, what does data ownership really mean? The next question is, I think, one of the most important questions. What is fairness? So in a world where you know everything, ultimately there is some objective function. And this is what our conversation should be about in society. At lunch today, we talked about health insurance. So if the data from my iPhone, for example, the quality of my voice tells a lot about what my mental state is, or trivially whether I have a cold or not. But I think it goes way beyond that. And what if we assume that everything can be measured and predicted, what then should we do? Would we allow a health insurance company to discriminate, of saying, you know, you are higher risk because of what we can measure about you? Or do we say fairness means that everybody is treated the same way? But already men and women have different health insurance. So I don't have the answers, but I think it's a good question to think, what is fairness? What world do we live in? What world do we want to live in? And then the final question is trust. Who can we trust? What can we trust? This is so tricky, because on the internet, you know, there's this old cartoon. On the internet, nobody knows you're a dog. Now on the internet, but Everybody knows you're a dog, but what can you trust? Yeah. All right. So, you as alumni here, you know a lot about the world. And I think it is our role to actually teach others about data, to have others see what the consequences are of our actions. So I would like to invite you to think, can you find somebody and actually have a conversation with them about data literacy? Or more specifically, here's the advice I gave to Angela Merkel. I said, find a teenager. You know, find somebody 16, 17, 18, and sit down with them for an hour once a month. I know you are busy. Still, once a month, sit down for an hour. And here's how you structure the hour. You give one person 15 minutes where they prepare something to tell the other person which they think the other person doesn't know, but maybe should know. And then you have 15 minutes where the other person can ask them questions, what they always wanted to know, but really were too shy to ask. For the Chancellor of Germany, there are many such things. And then you flip, where the other person says what they should know, and then they ask questions. And I think that's a very good way of spending 1 hour a month. So I think in closing here, this talk about data, I think I would give you the same advice. Find some teenager and set 1 hour with them a month and figure out what's going on in their mind. So what I, for example, find extremely interesting is to get their phone and to look at all the apps they have and to ask what these apps do, and vice versa. They will be curious, and what do old people have as apps? So I think this is for data literacy or app literacy or computer literacy. Find somebody who is a teenager and find out from them how they think of data. That's what I wanted to share with you. Thank you for your attention.
Perdona. Thank you very much, Andreas, for such inspiring presentation. You know that, personally speaking, it's my area of expertise as well. I'm trying to keep building my knowledge for data, but it's very inspirational. Keep us thinking about what the usage of the data and what we should do it with what we do and understand the limits. That I think it's a very important thing. So I bring with a couple of questions because we don't have much time. But first of all, we talk, this is a school that is very focused on entrepreneurship. So if you've seen, we bring a couple of entrepreneurships in the house or in the stage to present. But you need to say, and this knowledge is about success and failures. You that has been consultant in many companies, organizations, even countries and cities, what do you think that is the biggest failure when a company trying to do this data, do this digital transformation without the success?
By the way, we did not coordinate those questions. I hear this right now, and I do have the answer.
Good.
The answer is the biggest failure is when people tell you we don't have enough data yet. It's the perfect excuse to not do anything. Well, just as if we only got that piece of data, then hallelujah. So that is the biggest failure of people who don't work with what they have, but who say, you know, we first need to, I mean, you heard this before when I said, you know, we first need to collect the data. No. You need to think about a question and then look at what you have. And that way you iterate.
Okay, cool. Second question that I have for the audience, I'm going to translate in real time. It's, what is the role of the data? The role of data in the Amazon growth? You know, it's data native, but how it's part of the journey for this?
So Jeff Bezos came from D.E. Shaw, which is a hedge fund, which is a financial trading firm, extremely quantitative. So it really was the company where David Shaw said, you know, let's get all the data we can on Wall Street. And then the models actually are quite simple. So Jeff Bezos very much came with that data mindset at the very beginning. And, you know, ultimately, once you observe everything, for example, how far a person scrolls down on the page, not only the clicks, I mean, that's easy, but also, you know, what needs to be reloaded. So you just instrument it, and you know people better than they know themselves. And that's true also for Google. I mean, who of you here would be comfortable if we showed every single Google query you did? Now, isn't that interesting that you're very happy to share that with Google, but you wouldn't share it with your partner?
Yeah, that's for sure.
And the same is true for the things you click at Amazon.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you very much, Andreas. We are running out of time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I want to call. Llamemos al señor.
Muchísimas gracias, de verdad, Andreas.
Thank you very much. Really, thank you so much, Andreas. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Much de thank you. Bueno. Amigas, amigos, estamos llegando a un momento muy especial de la noche.
We're reaching a very special moment of tonight of this Alumni Homecoming 2021, and I'm saying this because they're still linked to the screen. Lots of friends of ours who unfortunately weren't able to come here, but without a doubt you'll be invited to this event exclusively to this act for former alumni, and as one of the mottos says, enjoy it because you'll be at home. So before reaching one of the final surprises, and you can't imagine what mishap we lived with Andreas, and I appreciate your patience, and I want to thank several people because today to have such the strength to gather so many people for all of you is not an easy task, and I want to especially thank José Luis, our general manager, who has made this possible, but also, without a doubt, Jorge. This is extremely important for you to be here because you are our Secretary General, and it is amazing to see such a professional, someone who was at the Puerta de Alcalá in Madrid with 14 people, and it was just the 14 of us. So now there's hundreds of people. So thank you and all the team. Also, Airoa, our marketing manager. Also, the whole team. My boss said not to mention me. Pamela. Liana, we had a
Muchas gracias, Cristina.
tough call. Thank you, Diana. Also, it's also very enjoyable to be looking at your smile. And when talking about a school and such an entity such as EAA Business School, we imagine everybody is very serious guys, and it's nice to listen to and to see your smile. Thank you, the whole team of EAE. We have a photographer, another photographer, a video man. Thank you for lending us a hand. And all of these will produce some very spectacular graphic documents, and also I want an amazing applause. And I want to thank the interpreters up there. And she said, who are we to translate? So thank you so much, because you did an amazing job. I also want to thank the technical team of the Palau de la Música. They welcomed us with a warm smile and open arms, and we did our rehearsal without a but then there was this technical glitch, someone running behind the stage. Edu, thank you for the lighting also, and this glitch was quickly solved, I must say.
Dicho esto, mirad.
Having said that,
Vamos como vamos de tiempo.
so seeing how late we are now getting to the most most wanted time of the evening, the cocktail. And this is now down to business. Everything is ready, I believe. This is like drinking as much as one wants and eating, so throwing up, and this is like a Roman party. And I'm saying this because it is true, in fact, that there is a cocktail upstairs. There's many of us. Please be patient, because there's a few waiters up there. But please allow me to, if I'm to be honest, I want to say that it has been a real honor to be here on the stage. And when EAE Business School called on us and on me, and as you can imagine, they can call on anyone. They called me, and we want you to bring forward the values of the school. Of course, my boss, Jorge, as well, Aroa, said we're going to have a lunch meeting. Okay, fine, not a problem. And we're going to an expensive restaurant, not an Italian one, not with pasta. And everything was there. It was the best fish, grilled fish, etc. The maître d'hôtel, I got into the restaurant, and all of a sudden I saw these are some special parts for the food. And Jorge, yes, please follow us. I'm going to sit you at a table. Well, I said I would prefer to be sitting on a chair. But yes, the maître d'hôtel was not very tall. He wasn't a meter. He was 1.5 meters tall, and it was such a sophisticated dish. It was complicated to get through it. I didn't know what to order, and I spent longer to order than to eat it. But anyway, I ordered something that I did recognize, the sherry, etc. And so then they bring the food on a tile that you could have on your bathroom, and the maître says that this is the bird, the quail, but then would you like to change your plate? No, I'd like to eat, really. And I also ordered veal, and it was so tiny, so thin were the slices that I thought maybe they've cut it using a laser. And then the maitre said, how did you find the meat? Well, I just found it happily. And then he tried, he tasted our wine, and just for the bottle of wine, it cost us 53 euros, but it was okay, it was vintage wine. But all that to say that it was a pleasure to be sharing the stage and to be sharing it with the president in capital letters. What a wonderful day, what a beautiful day. I've had a ball, I really enjoyed it. Me too. We had a laugh, we had an anecdote, we had the incident, we had magnificent presentations, etc. What else could we want? So we'll just have a toast upstairs, enjoy it. For those who are streaming, and EAE goes beyond master degrees, download your app for the alumni, and that's it. Until next year, 2022. Good afternoon to all of you. Bye-bye, President. Thank you.